And you're going to be asking a few questions.
Wait, I'll be
or
moderating.
promoting.
Wait, I'll be this is the first take of extended ideas with Diana for the book 9 Mechanics, 11 Toes Later, co-written by myself, Diana Kanecki, and Ronald E. Pearson.
Hi there.
And you just saw Lon wave. Here's me.
I got my friendly penguin here with
Well,
the Volkswagen bus.
Well, today I'm doing my not-a-wig look. So basically, as we have the studio lights on, it's rather hot. So, and you can see we're ready for Christmas. We have a Christmas tree,
And a penguin.
right? And we have Carol, our Christmas Carol, who's with us. She's been for a long time like that.
Mm.
And Lon has Pinky the penguin, who's Carol's companion,
Right.
and actually not quite partner, but companion like that though. So
Well, penguins are slow, and we felt that the book needed a little regeneration, rejuvenation.
yes.
So, you know, a lot of buyers are penguins,
What?
a little reluctant to move faster on the deal.
But penguins are also very loyal to people they form connections with, so that's
Yeah, that's the reason for it. Plus, Xmas here.
exactly. Now, for those of you out there before the Christmas season, we just like to say ahead of time, Merry Christmas.
And Happy Hanukkah.
Exactly.
And,
But it's also Kwanzaa and
yeah, Gott nytt år, as they say in Scandinavia.
yes.
And Skål for everything else.
And to our friends in the EU, though, we hope next year that basically you'll be able to have your Christmas bilge set up, because a lot of us in the States, when we do get over to visit the EU, we do like seeing everything that's in the Christmas bilge. And for me, it's a favorite, and I think for Lon too, is for many years they haven't had pfeffernuss. I did find one place that does sell pfeffernuss out here, and that's a German Christmas cookie and a Scandinavian Christmas cookie. Well, now on with the book. Now with the title, 9 Mechanics, 11 Toes Later, explain to our audience what that means.
Well, it's the length of time between December 2 years ago and November the next year, 2020, where I had to be without a car, and the car would go only a block or two because it needed a new engine in the final analysis. And it taught me a lot of patience to have to endure, and a lot of rejection, and a lot of what I call unethical nonsense because of mechanics that thought they knew what they were doing, and
They overqualify themselves
yeah, and
at your expense.
yeah, right. So that's why the book has been dedicated to those of us of the consumer world. And the car was too old to be under any warranty that you see on TV, like the Car Shields of America, which cannot, you know, insure something like that because the car is over 25 years old. And there's no written underwriting for the age in that group. What it needed was a new engine.
In the end, but what happens as you took the car through these series of 9 mechanics, all of them told you a different thing need to be done, like a Y-wing harness.
Oh, they stressed that quite a bit.
And also they mentioned that they had this car computer which is supposed to test your car. However,
it was an old computer, being a 95.
Well, see I think that's a key issue, because when I had my Mercury, when my dad and I had our Mercury Grand, let's see, what was it? It's a 72 Colony Park. We were living in Kenosha at that time, and we couldn't get it towed up to Racine, to Firestone, or to Schmerber Ford, which was in existence back then. So we had it towed to a local station, and the local station had the mechanic there was very good. But what happened was all the books down there were basically AMC, Ambassador, Gremlin, Javelin. So what happened was the mechanic thought, well, okay, I'll tune your car to an ambassador engine's tuning. So we tuned it, we started, bang boom, bang boom, and what happened finally, one mechanic that lived in that, he said, stop, 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 stop. He said, one more, you're going to break your universal joint. So what happened, he arranged for a friend of his to get the car towed up, and we towed it up to Firestone. They looked at it and says, thank God you didn't do any more. He says, one more, you would have broken your universal joint, you would have completely destroyed your car.
Yeah, really.
And,
And I had similar warnings with this too.
and we didn't blame the mechanic. We just realized that, basically he's trying to do his best, but basically like many people, even though an engine may seem close to one another, like with yours, a 95 versus a 94, there's still quite a bit of difference in how you get things set up. Like that though and stuff.
Yeah.
The setting again, the settings.
Yeah, right.
You know.
And that includes something like an oil pan that should have been taken care of if it was smashed when I got the engine. They should have put in the oil pan first and then mounted the engine. It's a matter of procedure, what follows what should be, instead of going through an extra expense of doing the oil pan after. And, I'm not a mechanic, but I do think I believe in some logic behind, what you're attempting to do. And to me, it's not in the market that way today. People act before they think.
That's true. Well, now, just before we continue, I just want to mention the book, 9 Mechanics and 11 Toes Later, is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And you can find the book by searching under Kanecki, Kanecki, again, Kanecki, or under Pearson, Pearson.
Right.
And the thing is, what happens though is the book is an ebook. Another point I want to make out is some books, when you read them, are in perfect prose. Nine Mechanics and 11 Toes Later is more like the book Ulysses, written by James Joyce. And what do I mean by that? Well, in Ulysses, James Joyce actually wrote a book as to how people in Dublin actually spoke outside of the university. How did the local people speak? And he wrote the book in the local people speak and in the local people grammar. So when you read parts of our transcript chapters, it will be a free-flowing chapter that's not smoothed over or edited by professional prose. It's actually a free-flowing conversation.
Yeah, right, yeah. And with Dr. Diana here, you have published how many books in the past?
Well, I have about 170 ebooks and about 20 research papers, 8 proceedings that I was an editor to, 1 professional journal that I was an editor to. So in my career, I worked as a researcher, editor for Left Leaf Publications, as well as the publisher for ebooks and even paperback books through my own company.
Well, you can see there that there is experience behind the pen and the typewriter and everything else that comes up with life as it is. And that's why we're dedicating the book to you, the consumer, not to have to go through what we went through, as far as mechanical words and works.
Exactly. And also you have to remember when this happened at the start of the pandemic. So for some of you in other parts of the country, maybe you didn't have as strict of regulations as we had in Lycine, but in Lycine it was very strict. If you didn't wear your mask, you would get fined. Even lighting the bus, no joyriding on the bus, so it had to be for essential activities. And the bus was actually segregated, was separated in half. So,
but one thing was good, it was on my path in my local area here, so I took the bus for shopping and other essentials. And they didn't charge you to be on or off the bus for a good year,
Exactly.
which was helpful for people like me who were in kind of a destitute situation. What do I do now? Because I couldn't afford another set of wheels.
Right, and that was it, because what happened was, in the neighborhood where we live, we sort of live like in a suburban area of Racine. It's actually considered West Racine, but it's
It has
actually,
its own post
but
office.
it's a different West Racine from the traditional West Racine, which is a few miles east of 2 miles east of here.
Yeah.
And we have a Piggly Wiggly shopping mall. We have
And a post office.
Festival Food shopping mall, Walmart neighborhood store.
And a half a dozen restaurants.
Right, exactly. So this is I mean basically from Ohio all the way through Green Bay up through basically TCF Bank. It's about a 3 mile straight mall. Drive.
Fortunately, we have shopping convenience.
Yes.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And you can also get transfers on the bus to go further.
Exactly. And but just to go on another thing now, just give an example of what happened with your first experience with the first mechanic you went to. Give an example.
Well, I mean, I left a car there, and I was told, well, it had that leak, and we could fix it. And I drove it home that night, and I had to get a tow truck to tow it into where I live, and another tow to bring it back to the mechanic and say, well, that wasn't the problem. And you cured one anyway, but that the car still had to be restarted constantly, and it was a very disappointing experience. What I should have done is pulled out of there to begin with, but he was reasonable, and I thought, well, in time he would be able to trace down the source of the real problem of the oil leak and beyond.
Well, and that brings up an interesting point. You originally took the car in to get repaired because you had an oil leak.
Yeah.
And normally when people have an oil leak, normally what happens is basically you take it in a mechanic. They look at find out where the oil leak is, and it's pretty much a standard job. I mean, basically, you're done in about one visit. But now, when you took it to his first mechanic, at first he said your oil leak was caused because you had a bad manifold.
Yes, and I think he did correct that, but that wasn't the only problem. Obviously, if I had to take it back to him. So with that in mind, it became an ongoing issue. What's wrong with my car, and the length of time and beyond, and the cold winters.
And see what happens though with the.
Well, I was wondering if we could angle this at a different.
Oh, what do you mean, just?
No, I mean.
Oh, the camera, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a break and we'll come back for part 2. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
and 1.
And cut.
Anyway, we wanted to continue our.
Oh, just a minute. Let's see. We just have to do one thing here. See. There we go. Just a little bit.
Oh, you know what I noticed today, going here?
Yeah.
They took down the Gibraltar rocks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't know why, but they did.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
I thought maybe they might consider a ski hill.
Well, that could be. Let's see.
No.
What's this? Let's just do one other thing here.
I think that's better. Looks like you're working on it from,
There we go.
okay, are we all ready?
Yep, now this is part 2 of Extended Ideas with Diana, with the interview of both of us on the book 9 Mechanics and 11 Toes Later. Now, Lon, you'd like to continue on with it?
Well, the reason we named that the book is because 9/11 was my situation for that year. It was like a work in progress from the first of the year to maybe the end, you know, and involved a lot of problems. If I had to get to the VA, I had to rent Enterprise, rent a car to get down there, and then they wouldn't pay for the rentals. So there were ongoing circumstances, even though I had transportation at my doorstep with the bus. If I went anywhere else, you know, that involved my own personal expense, and then try to get reimbursed later, for which I was told no, they wouldn't do that. The VA mentioned that, and fortunately I kept well during this period where I didn't need to go to be hospitalized more than necessary, or, you know, to have follow-up prescriptions done yearly, you know, which you normally do in the VA system, you know. But it causes a lot of stress on you.
Oh, sure. Now,
when you're not getting the right answers.
Wait, now, for example, like when you rented a car to go to your VA appointments, what was the usual fee, like Leno plus any type of pre-fee you had to pay?
Well, I had insurance to a point, but not to cover the entire expense of renting the car.
So did you have to pay a deposit as well?
Yeah, that's usually $200 now. Of course, fortunately, they did have the rentals available, but it was the idea that, you know, they didn't want to cover it. I guess they wanted to pay for a rented taxi.
Oh, you mean the VA? Yes.
You know,
and
you know, the cost of renting a car was cheaper than what they suggested or would provide. And I had to go 33 miles, or 30 at least, to the facility. And that would have meant a 60-mile trip, round trip.
And
it isn't just there, it's my storage in nearby Union Grove and a few other places that...
Oh, sure. And just to let people know, in Wisconsin we have Medicaid transport to take people to different appointments, but in Lon's case, Lon doesn't have Part B. But the second point is, even with the Medicaid transport, like for Lon to go from here down to the VA, which is how many miles?
North Chicago, about 30, 32, 30.
Okay, well, it's about $8 a mile, so you take 32 times 8, that's $256 one way, and then return back another so $512 to do it, you know, the way the VA suggested versus running
versus a car for $85 a day.
And like even for me, for my medical, I mean, if I need to use a Medicaid transport, it's $180 round trip. And that's not a taxi, that's a van. That's, you know, sometimes it is a taxi, but it is a, but the point is, you know,
it's expensive with gas prices today. If you were in the same circumstances, you'd be glad to even get transportation.
Right. And see, I have Part B because of my disability. Lon does not have Part B. He has VA benefits. So if someone doesn't have Part B, then they'll end up paying much more for this medical transport.
An inconvenience of time and place.
Exactly. And
your mechanic doesn't care about that.
No. And the point is, I mean, some people can say, well, you know, there's another way you can get from the VA from here.
Yes, the train, yes, but that involves 2 transfers of a bus, and then you don't know if your timing is going to be right on.
Right, because what happens normally, most people, what they have to do is they take the Racine bus to a transit center, then you take the coach trains, and like Lon said, the final thing is, the schedule says you have make it 5 minutes before the train leaves. However, what many people find out is as the coach trains are approaching, or GB, like hear the train, letting off steam, final call. And just as the bus comes up, you see a lot of people doing this big pro football player jaunt up because the elevator is so slow to get on the train. It's like you're at training camp, to get on the train just before it goes. Or some people even get there and when they finally get up there.
And
it's way down the road there, and unless
Yeah.
you're Superman or
or the
Superwoman,
coach cars are conveniently placed, but normally they're not.
right?
I mean, these are obstacles that you find out during the course of time of hopping trains,
So if you really want to take the train down, like for a medical appointment in North Chicago, I mean, Lon and I would recommend, like if the train says it leaves, you know you can take the 8:49 train to get down there by about 9:30 for a 10 o'clock appointment. You really should get down to Kenosha at 7:49. Wait in the coffee shop to make sure that you're not doing the training camp rush, to get on the train like that, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And also with the metro trains, like one person used to talk with me up on Evanston, and she'd say, well, we still have the 1940 style trains. And what does that mean? It means a big step. The train's not level like it is in Europe, or basically in some parts of the CT. It's actually, it's a ladder you have to climb up.
And for some people with arthritis, that's quite something to have to negotiate, even if you're on a cane.
Yes, and for many years, many Chicago women invented the travel technique. Was that basically, for many of us that wear heels or anything else, we learned not to wear heels on the train. You carry a portable shopping bag. You have your heels inside, and you have your lay box or your Converse or other shoes on when you get on the train. Then when you get to the office, just before you go in the office, you go in the washroom, put your heels on, and walk around the office. And after you're done, you put your Converses on, because if you try to get off a train in heels or get on a train, one or two things will happen. Either your shoe will get stuck between the grate, your heel will go in through the grate and you'll break a heel on a good pair of shoes in your ankle, or basically the other thing is your heel will slip because basically there's not enough room on the plate to cover both your heel and your shoe. So a lot of Chicago women learned since the early 80s, you wear Converses when you're on the train, or Laybox or whatever shoe you like, and then you put on your heels. When you get to the office, you don't put them on beforehand, because sometimes you may have to walk a few blocks in the heels on cobbly streets, and that's even worse.
Especially in the wintertime.
Yes.
Maybe.
Okay, now we'll take a little break and return in just a moment.